I'm Kalilah Reynolds and welcome to Taking Stock.
Happy birthday.
Listen, it's KRM's first birthday. Kalilah Reynolds Media is 1 year old. Thank you, Narisi. Blow out the candle. So we've got, blow. 1, 2, 3, blow. You didn't blow. We've got lots of exciting stuff and giveaways coming up. So show us some love in the comment section of the video. And as always, we're bringing you all the latest business news and telling you how it will affect you and your money. So come on, let's get this money.
First up, expect massive price increases in just about everything. Shipping costs have gone up dramatically.
In 2019, pre-pandemic time, and early 2020, you could get containers, let's use coming out of China, for $3,500. And we are getting reports today that containers are over $14,000. People are getting quotations now for $14,000.
That's going to impact the cost of all imported goods. We'll find out more. And the analysts weighing on the latest market developments. Bitcoin prices have plummeted again after China clamped down on Bitcoin mining. But why?
Bitcoin mining produces a lot of what you call carbon emissions. And because of that, and the push now towards green energy and clean energy, it's now in contradiction to that. And so the government has decided that they're going to be cracking down on specifically the production areas.
So Jamaica Blue Power Group has gone back into lumber.
It's really very strange. I'm not sure of the reason behind it. I don't know if David has more information than me, but I found it to be a little bit strange to separate the company and then competing.
And Sagicor Group is making a big investment in energy.
New Fortress deal right now. What's going to happen is that Sagicor is going to own the plant, the combined heat and steam facility, and the New Fortress Energy subsidiary will continue to use it, but will pay a lease to Sagicor and other investors who will get in the deal.
We'll discuss.
But first, here's What's Hot, brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers, your best interest at heart.
Micro, small and medium-sized enterprises, MSMEs, are now able to access $675 million in additional funding support from the government. The added finance comes under the new MSME Capital and Business Loan Program. The program is aimed at helping businesses affected by the pandemic. Target sectors include agriculture, manufacturing including agro-processing, and tourism linkages. Some $200 million to be managed by Jamaica National Small Business Loans, JNSBL, has been programmed for micro-businesses. They will be able to access between $500,000 and $5 million, repayable over 60 months, at an interest rate of 4.75% per year with a 1-year moratorium. Exim Bank will focus on small and medium-sized enterprises SMEs, which will be able to borrow between $5 million and $25 million under similar terms. The Caribbean's first green bond project has been launched in Jamaica. It aims to raise funds on the domestic and regional debt capital markets to finance climate-related or environmentally sustainable activities locally. The project is being jointly implemented by the Climate Change Division in the Ministry of Housing, Urban Renewal, Environment and Climate Change and the Jamaica Stock Exchange JSC, with support from the Green Climate Fund. JSC Managing Director Marlene Street Forrest says the project will ensure there is direct capital flow into the region. It's expected to culminate in the listing of green bonds or climate bonds on the JSC by mid-2022, targeting local, regional, and global investors. Productive Business Solutions PBS is merging with Massey Technologies Trinidad and Tobago. Both companies are in the information technology IT business. The planned merger is subject to approval from stakeholders. It's expected to increase PBS's market and diversify its product mix. The amalgamation will see synergies in administration costs with implementation of the PBS ERP system and the combination of offices and warehousing in Barbados and Jamaica. The merger has been made possible by PBS parent company, the Mosson Group, which earlier this year acquired Massey Technologies from the Massey Group. Massey Technologies has its base of operations in Trinidad and Tobago. By September, the public should know if light bills will be going up. The Office of Utilities Regulation, OUR, is reviewing an application by the Light and Power Company for a change in rates. JPS has proposed a raise of 3.8% for a typical residential customer and 2.2% for small business customers. A bill increase within the range of 3 to 4% has also been proposed for large commercial and industrial entities, and 4.3% for very large-scale businesses. Very large-scale entities using a time-of-use rate structure would see a 3.5% increase. If the OUR does not grant JPS the rate increases, JPS has asked that its annual non-fuel revenue target be increased to just over $49 million versus the company's projection of $43 million for 2021. Palace Amusement reopened its Carib 5 Cinema in Crossroads and its Sunshine Cinema in Portmore on Friday. The decision to reopen comes days after the government gave the go-ahead for such establishments to operate with a maximum 70% capacity. The two cinemas were closed in March due to new COVID-19 measures, including longer curfew hours. They reopened with the highly anticipated Fast 9, as well as some other films which have been shown at the drive-in in New Kingston. The New Kingston drive-in was granted permission to join the ENDS program until the curfew is extended to 11 p.m. Palace says the other two cinemas, Palace Cineplex and Palace Multiplex, closed back in 2020, will remain closed until further notice. Palace continues to suffer losses due to the pandemic. For the 2020 financial year, it posted net losses of $100 million compared to a profit of $70 million a year earlier. WePay Caribbean is now the official payment processing company for the Yellow Media Group. The agreement formalizing the partnership was signed last Thursday. WePay CEO Aldrin Wayne told Kalilah Reynolds Media that the partnership will reduce processing costs for both the Yellow team as well as its clients across over 20 markets. He says it will also eliminate challenges working with other providers such as PayPal. Wayne says by mid-July, Yellow will begin rolling out solutions catering to entrepreneurs and small businesses, with WePay as the payment processor behind those products. He says with WePay being the easiest onboarding platform in the Caribbean, small businesses and entrepreneurs will be able to get their products delivered faster under the partnership. Meanwhile, the CEO says WePay is also looking forward to launching its Jamaica office around mid-July. The U.S. economy grew over 6% in the first 3 months of this year, setting the stage for what economists are forecasting could be the strongest year for the economy in possibly 7 decades. Economists are anticipating an even further acceleration over the current quarter, with more vaccinations allowing more businesses to reopen and encouraging consumers to get out and spend. Economists believe growth in the current quarter will be enough to push GDP output above the previous peak set in the fourth quarter of 2019. One forecast out of Oxford Economics has growth in the current quarter reaching as high as 12%, with growth for the entire year increasing over 7%. That would be the best annual performance in the country's history since 1951.
What's Hot was brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers, your best interest at heart. So with all the birthday excitement, I forgot to tell you guys to subscribe to my newsletter at KalilahReynolds.com/newsletter because we have some exclusive giveaways, birthday giveaways coming up for our newsletter subscribers. YouTubers, I also got your back. We have some giveaways for you YouTubers as well. So make sure you watch this video to the end. When we come back, we'll find out why container prices are so high and what manufacturers are doing about it. Hey moneymakers, you're not an official part of the family until you have your merch. Visit KalilahReynolds.com/store to order your t-shirt and your mask today. Let's get this money. This segment of Taking Stock is brought to you by Bulwark Insurance Agency. Insurance made easy. Welcome back to Taking Stock. Container prices have quintupled and even sextupled since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. What's driving these ridiculous prices? CEO of the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce, Larry Watson, has been fielding the complaints from his members. He joins me now. Hi, Larry. How are you?
I am very well, thank you. And you?
I am well, too. Well, I imagine that you're well in your personal capacity because professionally right now, with the cost of shipping containers and so many things caused by this pandemic, is probably up and down, huh?
Yeah, well, things are challenging. One of the things that's affecting businesses and importers, is the astronomical increase in the price of shipping. And that's really quite a challenge for importers of goods, merchandise, hardware, supplies, manufacturers, and not just containerized, but bulk, liquids, everything. All shipping rates have gone up quite significantly, particularly from China and the Far East.
So when you say astronomical, what levels are we looking at?
Okay, well, in 2019, pre-pandemic time, and early 2020, people could get containers. Let's use coming out of China for $3,500, and we are getting reports today that containers are over $14,000. People are getting quotations now for $14,000. So you're talking 3-4 times the amount, a multiplier of 3 or 4 times.
Well, that's crazy. That's a whole lot. So how have your members, in fact, before we come to how members have been dealing with it, what about other sectors? Because you said it's not just in the shipping, in the
Well,
containers.
no, it's not in the container. So if people are bringing, for example, in wheat, that will have an effect on it. And if you're bringing in raw materials, a lot of raw materials coming in bulk. So, for example, lumber may not come in a container, it may come break bulk, you find in the cars, etc. So shipping as overall has been severely affected by the pandemic. So it cuts across all areas. Now, what members are doing or what is happening at the shipping ports? I spoke to one member and they indicated that the last time they brought a container, they paid $10,500. And that was about the amount that they could afford to bring that container, because previously it was costing them $3,500. The ship left and their container was not put on the ship. And when they asked what happened, they said, well, the bids were higher. People were paying $13,000, $14,000. So they
Wow.
left their container. So they took a decision not to bring in the goods, but it is a challenge and it's going to cause a disruption in the supply chain coming into Jamaica.
So people are being hit, manufacturers are being hit on several different fronts because there's a rise in the commodities prices, so the stuff that goes in the containers to begin with, and then the container price gone up as well. But what's causing all these price increases?
Okay, well, one of the things that's happening is basically there's a global imbalance that is caused by the pandemic, right? And what you find happening is that countries are locking down. For example, you heard that the UK was locked down, Canada. And so you find that there is a whole shift in the supply chain and in the movement of the ships. So what would happen is that if a ship was to leave, for example, to China and head into a port, they no longer go to that port because the country may be closed. So you find the whole imbalance in goods and the locking down of countries have caused a disequilibrium in the flow and movement of containers. So the whole global demand has moved. And what that means is that the competition for air freight is really has changed. So in the US imports were down, but they are now showing a recovery. So you find there's a competition for the container space coming from China to North America. And what happened in the initial stages of the pandemic, that when countries were not importing as much, a lot of the shipping lines took their ships off of the routes and they were able to put them into dry dock to refurbish them, etc. So you have less capacity on the ship. So therefore more time, less container space, hence the competition. And what is happening also is that there are very few alternatives to ocean freight. If you're dealing with a product that have a very high value, say electronics or jewelry, you can air freight it. But when you're dealing with products that have a low value, say cardboard or container, something like that, your shipping cost can run anywhere from 25, 30, 40% of the value of the container. So it has a multiplier effect coming into play and just becoming much, much too high. Now, in addition to that, when the container lands at the port in Jamaica, remember that our import duties and excise, etc., is charged on the CIF. So if before you had a container costing you $30,000 CIF coming into Jamaica, with the increased freight, that 30 now maybe becomes 40. So your duty exponentially increases. So it does have a multiplier effect coming through the prices, both for manufacturers and importers.
Right, so the duty is charged. So the shipping cost isn't factored into the duty, though. Is the duty
Yes,
is
it
only
is.
charged on the. The shipping cost is factored into duty?
Yes, it's CIF, cost, insurance, and freight. When it
Oh,
lands at the data report, they use the weighted average exchange rate, and it's on the CIF value.
I
So
thought
it's
it
not
was
a
only
multiplier.
the value of the goods.
No, the FOB, no, it's on the CIF value.
Ah, so is that something perhaps that your association might want to lobby the government for a change, even if it's a temporary change, just due to the circumstances right now, to look at changing those rules, how the duty is calculated for this period, since you're facing this challenge?
The answer is yes, we could lobby. I mean, the truth be told, the government, has their own challenges in their budget and balancing their budget, and at the port of entry, when you have, for example, the revenues that is generated by the customs and charged by the customs there, that has significantly dropped with the whole pandemic coming through. So, it's a balancing act. The government has significantly increased spending, because of the COVID pandemic. They're trying to build hospitals. They have a very tight budget coming in for this year. So when you say to them, change this may cost them a number of billions of dollars.
Well, not necessarily, because the freight wasn't this level, wasn't costing this last year. So this would be a windfall for them. It would be additional revenues that they hadn't anticipated.
But volumes have declined significantly also, the
Yes,
import volume. So they are looking to balance their budget.
I see.
So it is a challenge, and the answer is yes, we would love to have that, but you look at things. I mean, last budget we asked the government, we lobbied the government to try and increase the duty-free imports for individual consumers from $50 to $100. And when the Minister of Finance spoke in Parliament, he indicated this just wasn't a time to consider even that small move from 50 to 100 because of the revenue that it would impact. They would lose with it, and they couldn't afford it right now.
Okay, so volumes have decreased. So does this mean that we are likely to see quite a significant impact in the Jamaican manufacturing sector, since they're facing this challenge and many of them might just not be able to afford the additional shipping costs?
Well, let's put it this way. I think the manufacturing sector that imports a lot, I think the distribution sector or pharmaceutical sector that imports drugs, although the effect on that may be less because of the higher value of the goods. All sectors are going to have an impact, and it's going to have an inflationary pressure. And I think if you look at starting figures, that in the last 2 months, you'd see an uptick in inflation coming through. Because the truth be told, the whole global landscape have changed. Because another thing, for example, that caused the freight to go up is the blank calls. A ship may leave out of, let's say a ship leaves out of China, and that ship is going to the UK, and when they reach there, the port is closed. They have to bypass that port and go to somewhere else. So everything is really playing into increased shipping rates, blank calls, the closed ports, delays in shipment, port congestion, the getting back of the containers from the factory to the wharf, and the increased costs associated with it. So it's really quite a significant impact, and it's going to have an inflationary pressure on us. And the truth be told, that until we get this global pandemic under control, not only in Jamaica, but worldwide, and things start to go back into somewhere closer to where it was before, we're going to have this pressure, because the shipping industry is predicting that the prices will continue to increase looking into the second half of 2021, because it started in autumn of September 2020. It surged in the first quarter of 2021, and you will realize that in the second half of this year, we're going to see significant increases in freight. 2022, hopefully, we'll see a softening. I mean, part of the good news is that the orders for containers and ships, for new ships to be put on route, has been pretty good. And the figures I read, there were some couple hundred ships on order, 200 or 300 ships on order, but they take 2 to 3 years before they are put into service. So that in fact is a problem. So I think looking out, we'll see an increase in the shipping capacity and are coming down, but I think 2021 is going to be a very, very tough year.
Yeah, the rest of this year indeed. So he said 2 to 3 years before those ships are completed already. So holding fort until then is going to be tough. And the second half of this year, we're going to see that inflationary pass through. So
Right.
how are your members dealing with it? Is it that they're just canceling orders and shutting shop, or are they sourcing stuff from elsewhere?
I
Or
think some members,
prices? I don't know. Tell me.
sourcing goods from elsewhere, yes, they will do that. I think some members will try and source locally. But you must remember, if you're bringing, for example, plastic containers from China and the price have increased, you may want to buy them locally, but the pellets that they may use in that area is also increasing. So everybody's prices are going up. But I think our members are really looking for options. The manufacturers, they don't really have, they will be looking to see how they can reduce their costs, but not only the raw materials, but they're looking at their productivity and efficiency. And I think as it relates to importers, they're looking at the product and rationalize it. Some products can more afford a price increase than others. But I think overall you may see a decline in consumption because it's demand and supply, and if manufacturers and or the wholesalers and distributors raise their prices, the consumers maybe will not be able to afford as much product, and we may see a decline in consumption of these products. But that's demand and supply, and we just really have to weather the storm as we try and get behind the pandemic. But
Right.
I think the answer to that is, with respect to the pandemic, is just really to encourage all Jamaicans to get vaccinated, because this corona pandemic is really quite a wake-up call for all of us. And I think as children, all Jamaicans really get vaccinated and to go to school as kids. And we just have to encourage everybody to get vaccinated. I know there's a shortage now, but I know the National Health Fund and the government are working tirelessly to get vaccinations. And we're supposed to be getting good supplies at the end of July, and then in August, we have the order and has paid on it. So I just am encouraging everybody to ensure that you get vaccinated, encourage your friends and your family to get vaccinated, because it protects you, it protects your family, it protects the business, and it will allow Jamaica to flourish.
So are manufacturers decreasing output at this time because of this problem?
I don't think so. I mean, manufacturers manufacture to the demand of the consumer. And I have not really heard of anybody decreasing output. If you get an order for 100, you produce 100. And but things are tight, I mean, school has been out for over a year, and there are some manufacturers, like in the snack business, in the soda business, that a lot of their business goes to school. So once school is on holiday, you find their sales decline. The cookie business and the biscuit business. So since schools have been closed, that business has gone down. But I'm sure some of those manufacturers are retooling, finding new product lines to go into that is not so susceptible to the school children, and move in that direction. So they're gonna vary their production and their movement to what the demand is and look for new products. But overall, things are very, very tight, and there's going to be an upward pressure on pricing, and that's going to turn around and reflect itself in the demand for their products.
Grim words, Larry Watson. I appreciate your input. At least we know what to expect in the coming months.
Well, it's good to be with you, and I just ask everybody to be responsible and look forward with optimism, because if we push the right buttons and do the right things, this pandemic will be over soon. As you can see, the tourist industry is trying hard, doing good things, and we're getting visitors coming back. So things are looking better. The end of the tunnel is there once we can get the vaccinations into Jamaica and get the population vaccinated.
We will keep our eye on this. Thank you so much again, Larry.
It has been a pleasure, and you stay safe.
You too. Whoa, it's pretty crazy with those prices, right? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Well, up next, we've got your market recap, and the analysts are standing by. We'll be looking at new developments in the crypto market as China has clamped down on Bitcoin mining, sending prices down even further. But first, take this week's poll. Has the fall in Bitcoin prices made you afraid of the crypto market? Go to the community tab on my channel or click the link in the description below. Also, stay tuned for a giveaway at the end of the show. This segment of Taking Stock was brought to you by Bulwark Insurance Agency. Insurance made easy.
Time now for your market recap, brought to you by Sagicor Investments. Think wealth, think Sagicor Investments. The Jamaica Stock Exchange advanced with the combined index gaining more than 1%. 108 stocks traded across both the main and junior markets of the JSE for the week ending Friday, June 25, 2021. 45 advanced, 54 declined, and 9 stayed the same. Nearly 82 million shares changed hands on the Jamaican dollar market, totaling nearly $707 million. Wigton Wind Farm ordinary shares traded the most, taking up 27% of market volume. The stock lost 1 cent to open the week at 56 cents. Trans-Jamaican Highway traded at the second highest, with people buying and selling nearly 6 million shares in the company. The stock gained 2 cents to open this new week at $1.24. And Fesco rounded out the most traded, taking up 5% of market volume. The stock gained 5 cents to close last week at $1.12. Now let's see who had the biggest gains. MPC Caribbean Clean Energy rose 27% to close last week at $148.49. Epley Caribbean Property Fund came in second for last week's biggest gains, with its stock rising 19%. The stock opens this new week at $42.92. And rounding off the biggest gains, ISP Finance Services advanced to nearly 18% to open this week at $17.98. On the losing side now, JMMB Group 7.25% VRJMDCR preference shares fell to close last week at $1.10. JMMB Group 7% VRJMDCR preference shares fell 20% last week, down to $1.60. And rounding off the biggest losers, 138 Student Living Jamaica Variable Preference lost nearly 15% to open this week at $6.50. Market recap was brought to you by Sagicor Investments. Think wealth, think Sagicor Investments.
This segment of Taking Stock, The Analysts, is brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers. Welcome back to Taking Stock. I've got a team of analysts to examine the week in business. I'm joined by equity trader at JMMB Group, Clive Charlton, business writer at The Observer, David Rose, and financial coach, founder and CEO of Profit Jumpstarter, Keisha Bailey. Hi, everybody. Keisha, Clive, David, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for
Hi.
having
Hey,
me.
Kalilah, what's up?
Thanks
Well,
for having me.
Let's start with what a lot of people have been interested in lately, and that's cryptocurrency. Bitcoin prices have fallen in the past couple of weeks, primarily because of some developments in China. Keisha, China is now basically banning Bitcoin mining. Tell me why and what has been the result?
All right, so the main thing is that the People's Republic of China has decided that they're going to be cracking down on the mining of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin mining produces a lot of what you call carbon emissions. And because of that, and the push now towards green energy and clean energy, it's now in contradiction to that. And so the government has decided that they're going to be cracking down on specifically the production area. So the Sichuan province, which is a hydro-rich province, they're getting the brunt of all of the crackdown. And also the government has asked Alipay and the other major banks in China as well to basically not provide any services related to cryptocurrency. This is basically another case study where the Chinese government is saying cryptocurrency is out of our control, and so we need to crack down on the mining and the production and use of cryptocurrency. The result of that has been price volatility. So Bitcoin started the year at around 65,000. It moved on June 21 to 31,700, and that's the lowest since it was around June 8th.
Ouch.
On June 22nd, June 22nd, it fell below 30,000, thereby erasing all of the 2021 gains. And then up to today, it's back up close to double digits. So it's around the 34,000. So classic definition of what you call a roller coaster asset class. Also, the other coins, your Ether, Dogecoin, Litecoin, they're also experiencing a lot of volatility because of this. The main move, the Chinese government is saying they prefer to have control of this currency, and so they're pushing the use of their digital asset, CBDC, instead of...
So China has developed their own digital currency, the digital yuan, similar to the testing that Jamaica is about to start here as well, the digital Jamaican dollar.
Right.
You think this ban on crypto mining, you think they're really just using the whole greenhouse emissions as a front for their real motives to push their own digital currency?
Yeah, when I saw that aspect of it, as you know, it was a new learning for me. You know, as to the amount of energy that is used in this manufacturing thing. I don't know much about the whole structure, they call the architecture of computers. However, I think that the most significant reason is the level of control. I think there's too many, or perhaps I can use the word much, which means that we can't really count it. You know, it's not individual integer. We can't say it's 100, 200, but much it could be anywhere, like sand, like water. You know, mystery on this. It's exciting, yes. We in the investment field, especially traders, we love it because that is what we do. But there's too much mystery surrounding it. How is it controlled? Who wrote it? Where's the program domiciled? These are things that are outside of the domestic control of respective economies, you know, and that I think is a significant reason why many countries will say, look, the volatility is one, you know, but I think control first and foremost, I think is significantly, you know, one of the significant reason why several countries, including China, especially with, let me say that, start with that. And I think that is one of the significant reasons, perhaps, why China has clamped down on it, as well as a few other countries.
But that's the whole point of cryptocurrency. That was the whole reason it was invented in the first place, to have that lack of regulation. And that's why so many people are attracted to it. I guess that's what puts fear in central governments and institutions. But on the individual level, that's what attracts a lot of people to the entire thing in the first place. That's why it was created. Right, David?
No, you're correct, because the reality is, as a lecturer said a couple of years ago, imagine you're here in Jamaica, your friend is at a bar and they want to pay for a beer. It's not fast or cheap to send money to somebody else. There are a couple of platforms now or whatever, but for many persons in the world, especially in the developing world, you have access to the facilities. Just either integrate to Western Union payment remittance agencies, or until the person comes to Jamaica to give you the cash in hand. You know, those kind of scenarios what make crypto and these other decentralized opportunities so attractive. And the thing is, it's becoming a lot more interesting in recent times, because although China has cracked down on crypto, mainly because they can't control it, you have El Salvador, which literally says, hey, as I think it's September 1 and November 1, it's going to be an official currency in our country. And remember, El Salvador officially uses the US dollar as their domestic currency in a sense. So I think with the Bitcoin, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. I saw an article about that in one of the papers last weekend as well. So El Salvador has now adopted Bitcoin as one of their official currencies, like you said, David. But the interesting thing, as you said as well, is that El Salvador is a dollarized economy, meaning they no longer have their own currency. They use the US dollar. So the article I was reading was pointing out that because the cryptocurrency is not a threat to their local currency, since they have no local currency, it's an ideal place for it to be, you know, one-on-one, or side by side with the currency that they do use, which is the US dollar. Experiment.
There's a strangeness to that, you know. One is the first country Two, this is a very new government, and apparently the new president, doesn't have the experience of leading an economy. So, I'm sure he has professionals and technocrats, to assist him. But as I rightly said, it's vis-a-vis the US currency. But I think we get to see more. Here's something though. Here's a little article written by David Jessup in the Sunday Gleaner, June 20. The International Monetary, let me quote him, right? The International Monetary Fund says it needs to assess the legal, financial, macroeconomic, and regulatory problem that may occur in relation to the a US $1 billion loan it was considering for the country, for El Salvador, right? In addition to that, there's another regulatory body. The World Bank has expressed an unwillingness to assist in implementation, given Bitcoin's environmental and transparency drawbacks. You see? So there are quite a few hurdles that I think El Salvador will have to overcome, which is institutional, structural, regulatory. There are a lot of other things before I think this thing can be properly implemented. It is very strange. We have no clue how this thing will impact their economy, their financial systems, absolutely none. So, it's exciting, but...
Yeah, so there are people here in Jamaica who would be saying, well, why doesn't Jamaica do this? Just free up the thing, make Bitcoin legal tender here too. But like you're pointing out, Clive, it's not quite that simple.
Right.
Keisha, one of the points I saw in the article I was reading as well was that when you have two currencies like this, and perhaps another example might be Cuba, where Cuba you have the official value of the peso and then the real peso that's used, and they have two different rates. What people tend to do in situations like this is that they would hoard up the more valuable currency and then use the less valuable currency for day-to-day trades. So you'd have people, what the expectation is that people would hoard US dollars, being the more valuable currency, and then use Bitcoin more as the day-to-day trading currency. What do you think?
I feel Bitcoin is more the better storage of value. One of the key elements of Bitcoin has been that because there's a finite amount available, it becomes the classic definition of storage of value. And so the volatility in price exists, yes, but with each turn, I believe what we really need to be looking at with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general is the adoption. And I do see that happening. Elon Musk, though the price of Bitcoin moves with his tweet, the latest thing is that he has agreed to speak about Bitcoin at a conference in July. Name of the conference is the B word. Get it? The B word. So it's coming back in play. I do see adoption picking up, and I think that's going to be the ultimate driver of the price of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general.
I feel like Elon is a big general, What is his end game right now? Because we saw him doing all the tweeting and basically people following him, all the Elonites or the Muskites, buying up Bitcoin. And then right as it reached that peak, he announces that, Tesla is no longer going to accept Bitcoin. And then the value drops off. And just before that, they sold a bunch of their Bitcoin.
Exactly.
I find that very suspicious.
Yeah,
it is.
One thing I'm actually going to add on this, Kalilah, is that even here in Jamaica, Trans-Jamaican Highway is actually working with the BOJ on its digital pilot to create its own e-digital currency for the highway. So at the AGM, which I spoke about recently, they were talking about, and the BOJ's pilot phase of their central bank digital currency, where they actually are looking to work with the BOJ to create a currency to make it seamless and facilitative for the general person. So you've seen so much developments in the currency space between cryptocurrency, which is decentralized, and CBDC, central bank digital currency, which is digital currency but issued by a central bank to kind of fix some of the gaps that exist in the system. So it's a very interesting time we're living in right now, Kalilah, because who could have said a decade ago that we'd be talking about using digital currency and our bank accounts transfer money across as normal, but digital currencies to do business.
Yeah.
It is exciting. I start well. It is exciting. One thing I've noted, we are traders, right? We are in the financial field. We have a little, we read a lot, we pick up information here and there, and it can be exciting. But there's a real, genuine economy out there. There are really billions of persons who are trying to sort themselves out financially, economically. I think government has a responsibility for stability first and foremost. Government want to ensure that they can have some level of predictiveness in terms of what they are doing, to drive economy, drive growth, etc. It is novel. To me, it's one, the US, the United States, the people of the United States, their psychology, their political philosophy, they are wary of government. I think the type of fear that the US citizens have of government is different from what other countries might face, with autocratic government, a corrupt government, etc. It's really different, and those should be guided by different things. The US is a strong economy. It can come back from any adverse impact on its economy. We see the big financial crisis. We see the pandemic. Other economies are still struggling even from the global financial crisis, roughly over 10 years ago. So this, I think, is adding a little bit more uncertainty, to small third world economies that is just trying desperately to drive growth, and I think they are going to be very cautious. Also, here's what I believe also. Quickly, I don't want to take up all your time. With, for example, the international global issue, more and more we're understanding and realizing the power that America and the Western countries, because they had developed the institutional financial systems, the structure, and they developed the things that regulate it also, the power that they have to hurt an economy or restrict an economy. I think quite a few other economies are going to try find ways and means of circumventing or mitigating the impact of the influence of the US and the West, So we are going to see more talk and more discussion on these type of alternative currencies. But these, the Ethereum, the Bitcoin, I think there is just too much strangeness, too much mystery, too much uncertainty that concerns them. And this is why digital currency is the new thing, which I think is attached to your domestic currency. It is controlled, and it is necessary. We need regulatory body. We don't want to go back to the time a couple of 100 years ago when you use salt, stone, everything, barter. We might go back to barter if we have all these different things floating around the place with different values. We don't want to do that. We need structure,
Yeah. Well, the last update I got, because I remember they had said that Jamaican government had said that they wanted to start testing in June, and we're ending June now. But the last update I got from Minister Clark just a couple of weeks ago on What's in It for Me is that they can't start testing yet because they have to pass the law first that enables the use of digital currency. And even though it's not, even though this is just the test phase, you still have to issue the currency in order to test it. So we're awaiting the legislative changes for that to be tested, but he still says it's going to be started this year, the pilot this year, and they still anticipate rollout to wider Jamaica next year. So that's pretty exciting stuff.
Yes,
it is.
So let's move on to some other issues, some local issues, looking at the markets and what's going on in companies news. I see that soap manufacturer Blue Power Group is moving into lumber, Clive. So what's soap have to do with lumber? Tell me.
Well, Blue Power. The name, as it says in a publication, probably about 2 years ago when they separated the two entities. Separated the two entities to gain more efficiency. I wonder, though I can understand that Blue Power is attached to soap, which is one significant segment of their business, and they needed to separate to get more notoriety on the other end. I'm not sure if it was really necessary, but maybe I believe that sometimes when you want to strike strategic deals, especially, let's say, with a construction company, let's say with a supplier of raw material globally, and they're not into the soap business at all, or it's for whatever reason, then they can separate the entity. So
I think we skipped a little step. We need to mention that Blue Power Lumber Depot is an associate company of Blue Power Group, and now it's listed on its own. So we're
manufactured
talking
and
about
associated.
Lumber Depot and Blue
Yes,
Power.
sorry.
So Blue Power is now,
Jumped it.
even though they've separated the companies,
Mhm.
Blue Power is now purchasing lumber for sale to its
Yes, which
associate
is
company,
Yes.
Lumber
which
Depot.
is, yes, which is really very strange. I'm not sure of the reason behind it. I don't know if David has more information than me, but I found it to be a little bit strange to separate the company and then competing.
Well, let me give color then.
Mhm.
So for one, Kalilah, Blue Power technically doesn't classify Lumber as an associate. They don't hold a 20% stake in it to classify it an associate, and they have separate boards and whatever. But in relation to the whole separation, it was fueled by two things. One, you had the situation with the Dominican company. Mr. Nicef, I can't remember his first name, who was contemplating a committee was carrying Blue Power and other producers of soap to court and saying that, hey, you aren't transforming the product in a new form and you should make it in CARICOM certificate of origin. So you had opinion was that Blue Power was saying, all right, how can we give more value to Lumber Depot, which still was providing most of the strength of the Blue Power Group, and not allow our shareholders to take a hit from that angle. So, they spun it off to the IPO and grow. But at the same time, it protected Lumber Depot from, taking that hit. And you also remember that Blue Power still gives accounting services and other services to Lumber Depot. They will rent out space to Lumber Depot to actually host some of their inventory. And the thing is, for Blue Power to actually be supplying lumber to Lumber Depot doesn't surprise me, because they might be separate independent companies now, but they're still going to have some sort of synergies to actually, for one, allow Blue Power to extract capital in a sense that way, because they still have that agreement where they rent the property, they still have that situation where they provide accounting services, or actually administrative services, and to sell lumber to Lumber Depot. It is a continuation of that. As I said, not a surprise per se in the corporate world. It might seem strange and they have spun it off and be doing this, but as I said, you saw recently where the Jamaican government along with Blue Power were taken to court
Right.
by the Dominican company, and the government had to basically say, all right, we're going to hold off and issue more certificates. So the Blue Power shareholders have benefited because they got their Lumber Depot shares just by owning the Blue Power shares at the time and got to buy more at IPO. So they've still benefited and continue to get value, but Blue Power is taking its own hurdles right now. And then Blue Power and Lumber Depot is out of the financials for the financial year, whereas are delayed until July 14. But it's a whole lot of things going on. So it's good that Blue Power, kind of separated both of the entities. Lumber is thriving now, profits are spiking and everything. Stock price
Yes.
from $1 last year at a COVID low to around $3.30 now, while Blue Power has kind of trickled back further in stock price. And both entities are still, Blue Power is taking dividends off of Lumber Depot, and both entities are still thriving, so it's nothing surprising.
Yeah. It could be also a classic case of the parent company sheltering or absorbing the costs to the benefit of the associated company. So that happens a lot in companies, so nothing too surprising. The capital may be within BPO, and so they make the purchase and then do an intercompany transaction to sell to Lumber Depot, but thereby absorbing some of the price impact. So Lumber Depot may not necessarily be paying the full price that they would have had they gone to market themselves. So very efficient strategy. Yeah.
I see. Well, let's look at our last topic for today, Sagicor and New Fortress Energy. What's going on with these two companies, David?
Well, let us just make it very simple. So Sagicor is engaging in a $285 million US sale and leaseback, about 42.75 billion JMD. And let me give a simple example of a sale and leaseback agreement. So let us say I have a car, but I need cash. But at the same time, I don't want to give up my vehicle because I need to carry my daily duties. So I say, hey Kalilah, do you want to buy my car? Do you want to buy my car from me and lease it back to me? So I sell my car to Kalilah for $100, and then she leases it back to me for probably like $10 a month. It might seem like an unfair deal, but the reality is you get the capital you need. At the same time, you're just using the item without actually having to incur certain costs.
Right.
So in the case of New Fortress deal right now, what's going to happen is that Sagicor is going to own the plant, the combined heat and steam facility, and the New Fortress Energy subsidiary will continue to use it, but will pay a lease to Sagicor and other investors who will get in the deal. The Sagicor Group Jamaica and its subsidiaries are going to invest 100 million US dollars, 15 billion JMD into this deal, and then Sagicor is going to syndicate, or I should say, source capital from regional, local, international investors for the remaining $185 million deal. This is the first major deal we've seen in recent times where you're going to have such exposure for, a grad group of investors. Sagicor isn't still how they're going to structure the deal as yet because it's subject regulatory approval. But I posited an idea of how they're going to do it. So create a holding company to purchase the asset, which in this case will be the heat and power plant, and then Sagicor to another company for itself, just for Sagicor entities to put its capital in for $100 million investment, and then another holding company for the $180 million amount, and then once the holding company gets the least money, it just pays dividends out to the shareholders in that case. So it's a very good deal for New Fortress Energy because they took about 3 years to build it, about $260 million US dollars, took a bond from NTB of $180 million to finish up the project, and build it, sell it, lease it back, and they're going to get $280 million of the capital for the New Fortress Group to go and do as they need. And remember, they're making a good amount of money from Jamaica, so for Jamaican investors to get exposed to this kind of asset class is a very good opportunity for us to get access to a strong asset because they have an agreement to JPS to sell electricity under a purchase power agreement. They supply Jamaica with steam, so this is a very lucrative opportunity for investors when they get the chance to get exposure, depending on how the deal is actually facilitated in the end.
Right. So just a little background, New Fortress Energy is an American, US-based company, and they are the suppliers of LNG to JPS. As you know, JPS over the past few years has been transitioning from its use of heavy fuel oil to LNG, which is cheaper to source and better for the environment. And so New Fortress has that exclusive deal to supply LNG to JPS, which in turn sells electricity.
Natural gas for the viewers.
Yeah, right, for us. So is this Sagicor's first venture into energy, David?
Yes, this is the first venture into energy. This is the second most recent deal with a NASDAQ listed company. Because remember, they did a deal with Playa, but because of the COVID pandemic, that say, we kind of have to go exit earlier to this deal because the pension funds cannot be taking that kind of risk. So, it's the first major deal we've seen them involved in energy. They were the lead broker for some JPS refinancing in the prior year. I think it was 2019, but this is their first major group investment in the energy sector in that reality.
I wonder what's going on with that plan for JPS, for government to divest its 20% stake in JPS via the stock exchange, so to list its shares on the JSE.
Well, I remember Dr. Clark saying that, sometimes going to be done eventually in the future, but in the current environment, it wouldn't make any sense because you really want to, remember the government's central focus is still giving the Jamaican person, average Jamaican, opportunities to get into these asset classes or these government assets that are technically divesting in a sense. So the government still wants to create opportunities for Jamaicans. At the same time, we're in COVID. Persons are still not where they should be in terms of economic spending. At the same time, TransJam was not bad investment for investors, but it's still below IPO price. So pragmatically, it's longer to actually engage that deal, but it's going to be very tedious and complex because the government has several different frameworks or hoops to go through in order for it actually to come to light.
Yeah. TransJam is below IPO price, but at least it's a good dividend-paying company. So there's that.
It's a balance between both.
You want to add something before we go, Keisha?
I was going to jump in on the Sagicor discussion because I think it's very lucrative for them. I think it's a good move because a little nugget in here is that $180 million loan. I think some of the proceeds may be used to help repay that loan, which puts them in a stronger cash position overall, which you need for capital-intensive companies of this nature. So I really like the deal. I think it also represents a really good investment opportunity for persons. So consider that one as it comes up when the deals become available, the details become available.
Thanks again, everybody. Always appreciate it. This was a good discussion.
Yes, thanks.
For sure.
Kalilah.
Yes,
bye.
All right.
Thank you. Bye.
This segment of Taking Stock, The Analysts, was brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers. That's our show for this week. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share with a friend. Also subscribe to our newsletter at KalilahReynolds.com/newsletter and turn on those post notifications so that you can be the first to see all my other features. We want to help people learn more about money so we can all get this money together. Now this week on Money Mondays JA, if you want to invest but just don't want to do the day-to-day work of monitoring the market, you could consider buying units in a unit trust. I'll explain. Now on Money Moves JA, Exim Bank has a new super low interest rate loan out, and you even get a 1-year moratorium. I'll tell you all about it. Later this week, it's an IPO alert that you don't want to miss. NCB Capital Markets and Stratus Alternative Investments have a new product that they're planning to list on the Jamaica Stock Exchange soon. I'll have the rundown. And of course, stay tuned for the next installment in our feature on Pulse Investments. We'll visit the future location of the ultra posh Pulse Homes. Now, here's that giveaway question. It's pretty easy. KRM has several programs, right? You just heard about some of them. So tell me, which was our very first program? Comment below in the comment section, not the live chat, and win a prize. Be sure to include your email address in the comments so that we can contact you. The winner will be chosen at random from all of the comments. Now follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Kalilah Ray, and follow at Taking Stock JA on Instagram. If you want to connect with the analysts this week, check the description box below for their contact information. Also, visit our website, KalilahReynolds.com, for financial information you can use however you like it. Watch, listen, or read. Now, tell a friend about taking stock because investing is the new sexy. So let's make it cool to talk about money. I'm Kalilah Reynolds. Let's get this money.
Let's get this money.